The Epoch Times, 26 September 2022, China's unofficial police stations in Toronto are part of a growing trend of transnational repression. A new investigation report says that Chinese police have set up 3 illegal service stations in Toronto. These are part of an operation that has grown to include over 50 similar offices in dozens of countries. These illegal police posts use a variety of tactics, such as threatening Chinese revolutionaries, bribing local officials, and scaring people who are against Chinese rule. The report said that these operations eschew official bilateral police and judicial cooperation and show the worrying rise of transnational repression and long-arm policing by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. It also said that the stations have reportedly gone after criminals, corrupt officials, and dissidents. People who have spoken out against the CCP get mean phone calls with Chinese recordings, visits from Chinese citizens who work for the CCP, and attacks on companies that hire Chinese nationals. That study, called 110 Overseas, Chinese Transnational Policing Gone Wild, came out in September from Safeguard Defenders, a human rights group based in Spain. It said that in January 2022, a first batch of 30 overseas police service stations were set up in 25 cities in 21 countries. When the report was written, were 32 sites under the control of the Fuzhou Public Security Bureau in Fuzhou City, Fujian Province. This bureau is part of the Chinese Ministry of Public Security. They are also called 110 Overseas, from the Chinese police emergency phone number 110. Another 22 of these stations have been set up in 22 cities in 17 countries under the control of the police in Xinjiang County, Zhejiang Province. The report said, one can assume the list of such stations goes far beyond what can be presented here. The Globe and Mail said on September 21 that it had visited 3 addresses in the Greater Toronto area that were on a list of overseas Chinese police service posts released by Chinese state media. 2 of the addresses were in Markham, and 1 was in Scarborough. Anybody the Globe talked to in the area didn't know about a police service station or the Fuzhou Public Security Bureau, even though all 3 are in places with many Chinese people. One of the 2 Markham sites was a private home, the other was a mall with many small Chinese shops and restaurants. The 3rd building is in a business park close to a highway owned by the Canada-Toronto Fuching Business Association. This non-profit organization the federal government recognizes. According to Gloria Fung, president of Canada-Hong Kong Link, the CCP's past activities in other countries have been subtle. However, she thinks that the straight setting up of police stations in other countries is a very rampant way for the Chinese government to threaten and control people. This issue is being watched to see how the 3 levels of government in Canada, the media, and the people in the communities feel about it. This is the first time I've ever seen the police force of a foreign country open a branch here in Canada. I think it's a ridiculous and widespread scheme, Fung said. Convinced to return to China through threats and blackmail. The Safeguard Defenders probe looked into more than just the 110 overseas stations. It also looked into a related campaign started by the CCP in 2018 to fight fraud and telecommunication fraud by Chinese people living abroad. The Chinese government says that between April 2021 and July 2022, about 230,000 Chinese people living outside of China were persuaded to return to face criminal charges. What the report said was that persuasion to return is a crucial part of the Chinese government's involuntary returns programs, such as the Fox Hunt operation and the more extensive Skynet campaign. As the report says, the method involves either finding the target's family in China and putting pressure on them through threats, harassment, detention, or imprisonment to get their family members to return voluntarily, or going straight to the target either online or by sending, often undercover, agents and proxies abroad to threaten and harass the target into returning voluntarily. The report said that these kinds of actions leave legal Chinese residents abroad fully exposed to extra-legal targeting by the Chinese police, with little to none of the protection theoretically guaranteed by both national and international law. The report also said that Chinese authorities are targeting people living abroad who are not suspects. It is usual for China to break fundamental rights and any due process in their daily work. 9 countries that support the Chinese Communist Party. A report said that Chinese officials have banned Chinese citizens from 9 countries where fraud, telecom fraud, and web crimes are common, and say that Chinese citizens should not stay there without a good reason. Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Thailand, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates are some places. The study did say, though, that among suspected criminals, there are also completely innocent people who are just living in the wrong country, as well as victims who have been forced to do illegal things through threats, smuggling, and intimidation. Canada's United Front system links. The Globe article says that the Canada-Toronto Fuching Business Association owns the land where one of Toronto's 3 110 overseas stations is located. The CFPA website says it was created under the guidance of several Chinese and Fujianese government organizations, such as a United Front Work Department Municipal Committee. Toronto, Canada, has a significant base for Chinese hackers who work against the U.S. According to the All China Federation of Returned Overseas Chinese, CFPA's exceptional president, Wang Ning, spoke highly of the 110 overseas programs at the March 13 People's Congress of Fujian Province. He said it brought him the warmth of home. As per a study called The Party Speaks for You, released by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute in June 2020, this federation is also a critical group run by the United Front. The Epoch Times they were tried several times to get in touch with CFPA for their opinion. When asked about the company, the person who answered the phone didn't answer. Calls made after that were not answered. According to the Safeguard Defenders report, at first glance, at least some of the associations abroad are linked to the United Front system. This organization aims to co-opt and exert influence over representative figures and groups both inside and outside of China, with a focus on religious, ethnic minority, and diaspora communities. There is a lot of proof that large-scale online campaigns and overseas police service stations were used in these operations on 5 continents. These stations often used local Chinese overseas home associations that were connected to the CCP's United Front work, the report said. Real community service is often provided by overseas hometown associations, but they have now been taken over by the CCP's United Front organizations, which want to control the Chinese diaspora more and more.